made me cry when we finished it, actually. I blood my eyes out. Don't know why. I went to LA and Nigel played me the mix and just made me cry. I was in tears for ages. I just thought it was the best thing we'd ever done. So there's something about it. I love the way, what he did with the guitar sound and, you know, the way he mixed it and just the way it's really jubilant to me, that song, in a funny way. And also it happened to be, I mean, at one time it was a song I thought we were going to lose, which I was really upset about because the melody stayed with me for about 4 months without going away, which was, for me, is really unusual. It doesn't take me long to get bored, and I really never got bored of this song. Anytime I went for a walk anywhere or whatever, there it was. Yeah. It tends to be a long sort of process where what I'm finding is the more I think about how I first heard it, the worse it gets. What I'm sort of saying is that this is kind of what I mean about the let it happen thing. What I discovered, I think, in making this record is that along the way things form themselves, and the way things sound, it can form itself, and you may have dreamt of how you wanted it to sound, and then one day you walk into the studio and there it is, and it is, but you haven't you've not been standing there like with a hammer trying to beat it out of the desk or whatever, or out of your guitar. It's not necessary. It just happens it's just there one day, and I think that's why I cried when I heard the mix, because it's like I was so shocked that it was there. I thought we'd lost it or whatever, and it was really important to me, and it was right there one day. So and that sort of feeling can sustain me then for months. I'm not bothered about anything else for months, really. Everything else is, I can just about cope, because we found it, and there it was. So I mean, I think that was why it was the first single as well, really.
Sound wasn't right in LA.
Yeah, partly, and because the end was just, it's that interesting thing of, on one level, it's really great to record a band in the studio playing together as a band, and sometimes it doesn't work at all because you haven't got the real volume of a live concert, and it's not the same, and you're trying to capture something that just doesn't really work coming out of the speakers in your front room as it would have done in a concert. So that's one song that I think the first recording suffered from that. It just sounded a bit like we were trying to make a worthy live band playing together recording, and it was just, I don't know, it didn't quite work, did it, at the end of it?
No, because we'd been used to it in live. We played it live, and it was one of the ones that really worked live, and it was augmented by John and myself playing some drums on it as well.
Nice to be drumming, yeah. Nice
and so, I think we all had images of sort of tribal sort of, harder Fun Boy 3 kind of, big sort of... And of course, as Johnny said, it doesn't work necessarily in the studio, so it had to become something else. So you have to find out what it becomes, and it took us to get back to England and just approach it again, and do it again. And it's the longest. Is it the longest song on the record? It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the first single.
Again, that was something that we smashed our head against the wall about 4 times during Kid A session, and we had all these versions of it that were like, they were just so over the top. I mean, like a sort of all electronic, and blah blah blah, and it was just sounded like blooming Ultravox. It was horrible. But there was something, something in the lyric just stuck around, and everyone was massively into the song. I seem to remember Colin especially, and then I suddenly sort of thought, well, it'd be nice to try some vocal things with it, really, because I got into the idea of doing harmonies. I mean, I didn't not enough harmonies. I wanted to, really over the top harmonies, but didn't get away with it this time. But the other thing was the lyric of it seemed really, I mean, even though it was written 4 years ago, if not more, it just seemed to totally make sense. and it was irresistible to put it in, really, because it did have this sort of. It's sort of quite interesting because, I mean, as a song, it's sort of like a love song, but it's also sort of the angriest thing I've ever written as well, you know, that sort of anger that you can't even begin to express, you know. That sort of this thing about, you know, you can do kind of anything you want to me, but if you come after my family, I will kill you, you know, that sort of thing, which everyone has in them, I think.
I think we first rehearsed it as a band 1998, when we were just before we'd sort of had 3 months off after the end of OK Computer touring, and we were going to reconvene in the new year for the sessions for Kid A, but we were doing a gig for Amnesty International in '98, and we rehearsed, and that's where I Will first came up. And I Will was, you know, we rehearsed it as a band, and it was always, you know, it's one of those songs that Tom presents you, and you know, it's really stunning. You know that, and there's the excitement of doing it, but there's also the slight kind of, oh, you know, how are we going to do this? Are we going to ruin this? You know, it's one of those songs that sometimes a band arrangement can actually get in the way. So we went through several different versions, and we recorded it for the Kid A Amnesiac sessions, which became the backwards version of it became like Spinning Plates on Amnesiac. It was the track played backwards, and then Tom demoed it again, and he just did it with just a guitar and him doing all the harmonies, and it was kind of, oh, well, it's like recapture the essence of the song. So it was really just a sort of, you know, a lot of the feeling about this record was that we just want to get to the core of what's good about that song. Let's not get sidetracked by production details or new sounds or whatever. It's like whatever works for the song, which is kind of going back to what we used to do a lot.
That was a song where I was letting it happen. I mean, a lot of the lyrics for that song to me were born out of listening to Radio 4 an awful lot, like every day for 6 months, religiously. And just listening to what was happening, and I just had this thing in my head about this. It's just like a punch-up at a wedding. It's just bloody... Nobody knows what's going on. It's just a riot, and someone in the middle who you know, is being affected by this, and this is supposed to be the biggest day in their lives, and it's being ruined or whatever. And also, it was also sort of came out of I mean, I don't read anything that anybody writes now about us at all, because I just can't anymore. And the main reason for that was that I happened upon, sort of by accident basically, a review of our Oxford gig, which was just like, I mean, like one of the biggest days of my life, obviously, for all of us. And this, whoever this person was, just tore it to shreds. And they couldn't think of quite how to tear us to shreds, really. So they just tore the audience to shreds. And just sort of basically said, who are these people? A bunch of students, you know, white, middle class, which is not the case at all, but, you know, what's the point in arguing? But this person managed to totally and utterly ruin that day for me forever. And it really shouldn't have done, and I should be bigger enough to sort of just ignore it. And there was a lesson there, which I've learned now. But I just didn't understand why... how someone, just because they had access to a keyboard and a typewriter, could just totally write off an event that meant an awful lot to an awful lot of people, and there'd been just no answering back, no nothing. That was it, the end of the story. And obviously that happens all the way through your career, and if you choose to do this for a living, or to stand in front of a stage, you're asking for it, sort of thing. But I think that, you know, the sort of a frustration you're identifying with was you know, was there with that for me as well, and that was another impetus for the song. Because to me it was sort of like so many people were there and saw something completely different, but yet you're the twat who gets to sort of write it all off, and it's sort of, I don't know, I should be used to it by now.
I think it's in the tradition
Yeah.
of, it's a bit like, you know, if you think of the linkages between songs, it's kind of like a bit of a cousin of ugh, a dear old friend of what's the Karma Police? It's got that. It plays the same sort of.
Oh, right.
I think.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. It's sort of all in the rhythm of the piano, and it's us doing our kind of slow grind kind of funk thing, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
It's
Via Oxford.
of course,
Yeah.
via Oxford. So, which sounds frightening, but and it is quite. I mean, some of the harmonies in it are quite unsettling as well. So it's that mixture of quite a straight pop thing and all the wailing Tom's doing at the beginning and the
Yeah.
end. It's you have to hear it really.